All right, we are basketball people in our family. I know that's not the norm in northern Alabama, but we love basketball. We don't dislike the other sports. We also enjoy football and baseball, but our primary sport is basketball. Levi's constantly playing basketball and always get asked when the season's going to end. I'm like, well, it kind of doesn't. Like, we just keep playing different ways, different times, but our season's kind of coming into an end now for a couple of months here. But in 2018, in college basketball, the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, this is UMBC, became the first 16 seed in the NCAA March Madness tournament to beat and upset a 1 seed when they shocked the University of Virginia. It was the first time a 16 seed had ever beat a 1 seed. It was one of the greatest upsets in sports history, particularly college basketball history. It was a short-lived victory. 2 days later, they lost in the next round to Kansas State University, a team that they could have, and some believe should have, beaten. This happens a lot in sports. A big victory is often followed by a crushing defeat because emotional victories often create a level of vulnerability. After a mountaintop moment comes the temptation to relax, to assume that your momentum will continue to carry you, or to lose focus on what got you there. I've learned in my life and in ministry world at times, in my life outside of ministry, that high highs in life, those high moments in life, are often followed by really low lows. Some of your most victorious moments on the tail end of that will often come some of your lowest moments in life. And that's Joshua 7. In Joshua 6, we find one of the greatest victories in Israel's history. Jericho has fallen. God showed off. The people are celebrating. Momentum is building. Like, Jericho is just like the first city in a lot of cities that they will overthrow and conquer to possess the promised land. It's just one city amid a lot of cities. And so they have defeated this first city. And Zach read the verse 627. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all the land. The Lord was with him, and his fame spread. This is a high. They're at the top of the mountain. And then suddenly, a shocking, unexpected defeat happens at the hands of a very small town, a town called Ai. This is like the first Ai, the town in the Bible, Ai. Some of you, this is OG Ai in the Bible. Some of you have a fear of Ai taking over. You feel like you need to be like Joshua, need to go conquer Ai, defeat Ai. This is a city called Ai, a small city. And victory turns to humiliation in just a very few verses. And the question is, why? Why did this happen? Well, it's not because God is less powerful or God is less present, and it's not because the enemy was bigger or stronger. It was the opposite of that. The reason that the scriptures give is because there was a hidden sin that had entered into the camp of Israel. And Joshua 7 reminds us of something that we desperately need to hear, and that is this: our greatest threat is often not the enemy around us, it is the sin and the struggle within us. Our greatest threats in life are usually not the enemy around us, but our temptation and our sin that is within us. Chapter 7 opens with these shocking words, but. So after this tremendous victory, the Lord was with Joshua, his fame spread. And remember, we added the chapters and verses into our English Bibles. There's no break here in the original text. Fame is there, the Lord is with him, and then this great big conjunction, but, in spite of all those things, the victory, the fame, the Lord's presence, but the people of Israel broke faith in regard to the devoted things. Why did they break faith? For Achan, the son of Carmi, Zabdi, Zerah of the tribe of Judah, took some of the devoted things, and the anger of the Lord burned against the people of Israel. Context here, God told the Israelites, when you destroy Jericho, you are to destroy all the things. These things are devoted to destruction, was the the phrase that's used in chapter 6. You're to destroy those things. And then we learn in chapter 7 that this cat Achan took some of the devoted things. The people broke faith. Jericho has fallen, the battle is won, but beneath it, something is horribly wrong. A secret sin lingers in the camp. Verse 2. Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is near Bethaven, east of Bethel, and said to them, go up and spy out the land. And men went up and spied out Ai, and they returned to Joshua and said to him, do not have all the people go up, but let about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and attack Ai. Do not make the whole people toil up there, for there are few. So about 3,000 men went up from there, from the people, and they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai killed about 36 of their men and chased them before the gate as far as Shebarim and struck them at the descent. And the hearts of the people melted and became as water. So Joshua sends these spies to the next city in their path, the small town of Ai. And the report that comes back is, this town is weak, it's small. We do not need our full army. Only send a couple of thousand. How ironic in these verses if he would have said, send about 6,000 or 7,000, because then I could have been like, send only, 6,000, 7,000. Instead, it's 2,000 or 3,000. That joke's so old at this point in life and culture, isn't it? Send 2,000 or 3,000. I had to throw it in for the kids. They're confident, too confident, almost a casualness. Joshua does not even seek the Lord on this. We got this. Did you know that success in our lives often breeds self-reliance and pride? Well, you read how the story unfolds. They go up and Ai just flat out opens a can on them, right? Just defeats them. Did you know this is the only recorded defeat of the Israelites in the book of Joshua? This is by this small town. 36 men are killed. The people are devastated. Joshua is crushed. He, if you keep reading, tears his clothes. He falls on his face. He puts dust on his head. He begins to question everything. Who am I? How did we get here? Why are we here? We should have stayed on the other side of Jericho. He begins to question everything about him. He begins to question God. He begins to blame God. We tend to blame God when things don't go our way, as if God is some kind of villain in our lives at times. As if God's not in control. As if he doesn't care about us. Why, God, is this happening? They just defeated, don't forget, they just defeated Jericho, this central hub, this walled, fortified city. They just defeated Jericho by marching around the city, blowing trumpets, and screaming really loud. That was God's battle strategy. And they defeated the walled city with that strategy. That just happened. And now they're questioning God. By the way, I forgot last week in the sermon about the Battle of Jericho. My kids I got off the stage and there was text from my older kids. It's like, we can't believe you forgot it. Joshua fought the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Did you guys know this song, Sunday school song? I'm always referencing Sunday school songs. I forgot the most obvious one in the Battle of Jericho last week. So there we go. There's a shout back to chapter 6. Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho. Matter of fact, I planned to say it in the message because we got the song wrong, didn't we? It wasn't Joshua that fought the Battle of Jericho. It was God that fought the Battle of Jericho and brought the walls down. That just happened. Just happened. And now they're questioning God. They and we are a fickle people when it comes to our faith and trust in God. Our hearts are prone to wonder. We are prone to forget God's faithfulness and goodness. And oftentimes that comes on the heels of success, because success breeds carelessness. Spiritually, the same thing happens in our lives. We are often most vulnerable at times of blessing and growth and victory in our lives, and our hearts become vulnerable in those times. And suddenly Israel has lost 36 men. The people panic. Joshua is devastated. Their confidence is shaken. And the reason is because there is hidden sin. And hidden sin always leads to visible consequences. It doesn't remain hidden. Again, the greatest threat to Israel was not the enemy around them, it was the sin within them. And the same is true for us. And here's what that looks like for us as Christ followers in modern times. We spend so much time worrying about culture wars and politics and opposition and circumstances, and yet the scriptures are consistently and constantly warning us about the danger that is lurking inside our hearts and not what's always around us. Here's the reality of hidden sin. It never stays hidden. It never remains hidden. And so Joshua falls before the Lord asking why this happened, and God's response is very direct. Verse 11, Israel has sinned. They've transgressed my covenant that I commanded them. They have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen and lied and put them among their own belongings. God's response to Joshua is very straightforward. Get up, Joshua. Israel has sinned. They've broken covenant. Deal with the sin. Here's the plan. Gather the people and find the culprit. And so they start this process. They gather the tribes, and then from tribes, they go to the clans within the tribes, and then they go to the families within those clans, within those tribes, within the nation. So they get smaller and smaller and smaller till they've narrowed it down to a family, until they've narrowed it down to a person, this guy named Achan. Imagine how frightening of a process that was for Achan. And it went from big to smaller. All right, now they've got the right tribe. Now we've got the right clan within the tribe. Now we've got the right family. It's to the point that Achan finally just confesses his sin. I've done it. Eventually he is exposed, and we see his confession in verse 16. Joshua rose early in the morning. He brought Israel near tribe by tribe. The tribe of Judah was taken. He brought near the clans of Judah, and the clan of the Zerites was taken. And he brought near the clan of the Zerites, man by man, and Zabdi was taken. He brought near his household, man by man, and Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, was taken. Then Joshua said to Achan, my son, give glory to the Lord, the God of Israel, and give praise to him. And tell me now what you have done. Do not hide it from me. Let me pause here in the text and notice how Joshua frames this, that the exposure of Achan was actually a sign of grace in his life, that God was exposing the sin so it might be confessed in his life. Give praise to God that this has taken place. Verse 20, Achan answered Joshua, truly I have sinned against the Lord God of Israel, and this is what I did. When I saw among the spoil a beautiful cloak, 200 shekels of silver, a bar of gold weighing 50 shekels, then I coveted them, I took them, and see, they are hidden in the earth inside my tent with the silver underneath. Achan confesses, I saw it, I coveted it, I wanted it, I took it, and I hid it. That progression matters. It still matters because that's how sin works. It develops, it grows. Desire becomes a willingness to compromise, becomes a willingness to cross lines and to sin, which usually translates into our lives that we tend to conceal that sin in our lives, which ultimately leads to the destruction of our own hearts and souls and the consequences that come with that outside of us. Like, we know this. We know how this works because we have all lived it in our own way. Like, no one wakes up in the morning and plans to ruin their life. No one wakes up and thinks, today's the day I'm going to blow it. No one wakes up and thinks, today is the day I'm going to destroy my marriage. No one wakes up and thinks, today's the day I'm going to ruin my reputation. Once and for all, today's my day. No one wakes up and thinks, man, I'm just going to lose it on my kids today. Can't wait to get angry and just rip them to shreds. We don't wake up thinking today's the day I'm going to blow it. No one wakes up and thinks, I think I'm just going to walk away from my faith today. I'm going to lie to my parents. I'm going to fall into an addiction. Like, this is how sin works. It starts small. A desire, a temptation, a compromise that leads to a secret. And before you know it, sin has conceived and given birth and grows into full maturity in our lives. And we believe that that is a lie that we need to hide. There's this phrase, this kind of question where it came from, was thrown around a lot, that sin will take you farther than you want to go. It will keep you longer than you want to stay. And it will always cost you more than you want to pay. That's how the process works. Sin is the leak behind the walls. Not too long ago, I walked into my closet, which is beside our shower, and my feet were wet on the carpet, and I realized there's a leak coming through under the wall. Didn't know the leak was there until that moment. Don't know how long the leak had been there, but it was there, and then exposed eventually when it made its way out onto the carpet. You ever been camping and slept on an air mattress, or you stayed over someone's house and had to break the air mattress out? And then the next morning you wake up and you're just like flat on the ground? Because you realize in the air mattress there's just a small leak. You don't really realize it's happening until you wake up on the ground the next day. We just did that recently, didn't we? Our one and done camping trip. Come on, babe. One and done. The small leak in the air mattress where you end up on the floor. This is how sin works. This week, I was walking out, and in our garage, there was like a water stain on the ceiling. Oh, no. Air conditioning upstairs leaking. This is how sin works. It starts behind the walls. It starts with the leak. At first, no one sees it. The surface still looks normal. Life appears fine, but underneath, something is spreading like a cancer, quietly, slowly, destructively, and eventually the damage becomes impossible to hide. That's what Achan did. That's what he thought. He buried the treasure beneath his tent, thinking nobody will know. You ever read this story and think, like, what did Achan think he was going to do with the robe and the gold and the silver? Like, what is he going to do with it? Is he going to just at some point be like, all right, I'm good now. I'm going to come walking out. We got a party tonight. I'm wearing the robe that I stole in Jericho. Is he going to come out with the gold bars at some point and try to buy something with them? Like, what was he thinking? That's what sin does to us, right? Can't think clearly. Can't process things. But hidden things are never hidden before God and never remain hidden from others. Sin always surfaces. And I need to pause here, because this is where we need to be careful with the story. Because Joshua 7 is not just saying to you today, try harder, be a better person, clean yourself up, do better. The deeper issue in Achan's heart and in our hearts is not just behavior modification. It's not just figure it out, do a little better, try a little harder. The deeper issue is the holiness of God. Because sin is so serious, because God is so holy. Sin is so serious because God is that holy. Sin brings final judgment because God is so absolutely sinless and holy. This part of the text I'm going to read right now is not the fun part of the text. This is the part of the text that you have to try to figure out and wrestle with and struggle with and have conversations. All our kids are in here today. I told Ash, I'm not sure I need to read like this text to the kids in here, but these are the conversations you have to have as you grow older. Verse 22, so Joshua sent messengers. They ran to the tent. Behold, it was hidden in the tent with the silver underneath. And they took them out of the tent and brought them to Joshua and to all the people of Israel. And they laid them down before the Lord, and Joshua and all the people of Israel with him took Achan, the son of Zerah, and the silver and the cloak and the bar of gold, and his sons and his daughters and his oxen and his donkeys and his sheep and his tent and all that they had. And they brought them up to the valley of Achor, and Joshua said, "Why did you bring trouble on us? The Lord will bring trouble on you today." And all Israel stoned him with stones. They burned them with fire and stoned them with stones. And they raised over him a great heap of stones that remains to this day. And the Lord turned from his burning anger. Therefore, to this day, the name of that place is called the Valley of Achor. Like, this is a hard part of the chapter. It's hard for us to grasp this. Judgment falls on Achan and his household. And honestly, it is easy for us to struggle with this type of judgment, isn't it? Like, this seems severe to us. It seems harsh, cruel, unnecessary. And Joshua 7 forces us to wrestle with something that we tend to minimize. That God does not, that we tend to minimize, that God does not, listen, casually overlook or ignore sin because he's that holy. That sin deserves ultimate and final judgment. Now, let's be honest. We don't naturally believe that and think that. We minimize sin. We do it all the time. We rename it. We excuse it. We compare it, ours with others. We normalize it. We say it's not that bad. Everyone does it. I'm not hurting anyone else. How many times have you heard that? As long as it doesn't hurt anyone else. At least I'm not as bad as that person. At least I didn't do that. But Joshua 7 confronts us with the eternal divide between the absolute holiness of God and the absolute brokenness, destructiveness, and darkness of sin. Here was kind of the reality check for me this week, thinking through this. We tend to minimize the very thing that Jesus died for. We tend to minimize the very thing that Jesus died for. You see, if sin were small, the cross would be unnecessary. If sin were harmless, the cross makes no sense. But the absolute and devastating brutality of the cross reveals how serious God takes sin and how God feels about our sin. That our rebellion against God is not minor, it is deadly. And Joshua 7 leaves us with this dilemma. If God takes sin this serious, if he deals with it this severely, like, who among us can survive it? Like, why are we here? Why are we alive? Because we've all sinned like Achan. The truth is, we are Achan, aren't we? We're him. We're him. We have seen, we've acted, we've coveted, we've hid, we've concealed. Maybe not outwardly, maybe not publicly, but all of us have coveted and hidden and compromised and rebelled. All of us have buried things beneath the tent of our hearts that have not been exposed. And that's where this story begins pointing us to Jesus, the greater Joshua, the greater rescuer. You see, Joshua could expose sin, but he could not cleanse it. Joshua could identify guilt, but he could not remove it. Joshua could administer judgment, but he could not ultimately save sinners from judgment. This story in Joshua leaves us longing for a greater rescuer, a greater Savior, a greater Redeemer. In the story of Achan, the guilty faces and bears righteous judgment. The guilty, Achan, he faces and bears responsibility of righteous judgment. But on the cross, Jesus faces and bears judgment for the guilty, on behalf of the guilty. You see, Achan's sin brought chaos and death to Israel. Jesus steps into our chaos and death and brings salvation. Achan hid forbidden treasure beneath the earth. Jesus entered into the earth to take on our forbidden sin. Achan's hidden sin brought death to others. Jesus' revealed holiness brings life to others. This is the beauty of the gospel. The cross shows us both how serious sin really is in God's sight, but it also shows us how great God's grace truly is. That at Calvary, God did not ignore sin. He did not wink at it. He did not overlook it. But at Calvary, He judged it. He judged it fully. But He judged it fully not upon us, but upon Christ Himself. That the wrath that we deserved fell on Jesus, so that everyone who trusts in Him can be forgiven and cleansed and restored. And what that means for us in everyday life as followers of Jesus is that the gospel frees us from hiding, that we do not have to hide. And this is where it becomes deeply personal for us, because our instinct after sin is always hiding, to conceal it, to hide it. That started in Genesis 3, that Adam and Eve sinned and then they hid among the trees. They hid from God. And humanity has been hiding ever since. That we hide shame and addiction and pride and bitterness and lust and fear. We hide because we fear exposure. We think if people knew this about me, if God saw this, if this came to light. But the gospel changes that. It changes everything. That Jesus was publicly exposed and shamed on the cross so that sinners no longer have to hide. We've all been in a place where we have carried hidden sin. And it becomes weighty, doesn't it? I thought of this illustration this week. This is Levi's backpack from school this year. Let's go. I point this out on the front. This is Levi's backpack. He likes to hang stuff on here. Some days when Levi was headed to school, I would pick his backpack up and be like, dude, how are you going to be able to carry that thing? And mainly it was because there was tons of books or other things, mainly books, that he would carry to school. And this backpack is really light when it's empty and just only has the things that he has to decorate it. Pretty light. But when I began to add books, the treasury of Curious George, let's go. What is the Bible? Dog Man in the house. Another Dog Man. This is Dog Man and Cat Kid. Diary of an 8-bit warrior from Minecraft. Whoop. The Humble Pie. Inspirational basketball stories. The Bad Guys. Into the backpack. The Bad Guys, Volume 2, backpack. When you began to add books, guess what happens? Before he's going to school, I'm picking this thing up. I'm like, dude, you weigh 67 pounds. Your backpack weighs, just got to 67 this week. Didn't we, brother? He's been trying to gain weight. And we heard from the bathroom this week. Yes, 67. When you put this on a 67-pound boy, like you're not going to be able to carry that thing around all week, all day. It's heavy. It's heavy. That's the way sin is. It's heavy. And you add and you add and you add and you kind of adjust to the weight even though your back hurts, and you learn to function with it. But over time, the hidden sin becomes exhausting and weighty, and we live with it. And that's what hidden sin does. There are people in this room that are exhausted, not because life is hard, but because hiding is heavy and being secret is heavy. And Jesus is saying in the gospel, bring it into the light. Not because he wants to condemn you, but because he wants to set you free. He wants to empty the backpack. He died for that sin, that heavy, weighty sin. He died for it. And he wants to set you free from it. And Joshua 7 is a warning. Sin is deadly, and hidden sin destroys. And Joshua 7 points us forward to hope, because where Joshua exposes sin, Jesus provides salvation. Where Joshua reveals guilt, Jesus offers grace. Where Joshua brings judgment, Jesus bears judgment upon himself. So today, stop hiding. Stop pretending. Stop carrying the weight. Stop burying things beneath the tent and bring them to Jesus, because the cross is sufficient even for that sin that you think will bring you down, or if everybody knows, even for that sin that you think somehow in your mind that the enemy's persuaded you that it can't really be forgiven. We bring it to Jesus, because the bad news of Joshua 7 is that that sin brings death. But the good news of the gospel is that Jesus stepped into our place and took that death for us. The greater Joshua does not merely expose sinners, he rescues them, he redeems them, he restores them. And because of the cross, there is mercy for everyone who comes into the light. I heard this idea illustrated and have a similar incident in my life that I want to use as an illustration. I thought since Zach was here today, I'd bring back a classic Zach story. I was going to use it whether he's here or not. When Zach was young, he was a toddler, we had moved into a new home and we were painting the walls in the living room. I was there with the 3 older kids. Zach was a young toddler. In the middle of my painting project, I got a phone call that I needed to take and answer. So I left the room. I put down my paint roller, in the paint tray, thank you. And I left the room, and I went into the next room and was on the phone longer than I anticipated, probably 20, 30 minutes. When I came back into the living room, young, toddler age Zach had gotten the paint roller out of the paint tray and decided not only to paint the wall where Daddy was painting, but the brand new leather couch that was in the living room. So I come into the room, and there's a fully painted leather couch with little Zach smiling like he had done something good for Daddy. He had painted the couch. I reacted with loving kindness and grace and mercy. No, I hit 10 immediately. What are you doing? And you're a parent, you've been here. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to explain to a toddler mind why you don't paint the couch. And then at some point, I just realized he doesn't get it. He's a toddler. He doesn't get it. And I could have said, Zach, this couch cost X amount of dollars. This is how much this couch costs. Do you get that? Nope. Doesn't get it. You know why? He doesn't comprehend money, value, the amount the things cost. He doesn't get that. I could have said, Zach, you know how much Daddy's going to have to work to get the couch clean. Like, I can get out paint thinner, can try to get that, and we did eventually be able to get the couch clean. But we can get these things out and we can clean it, and you know how many hours I'm going to have to spend getting this and buying what we need to get the couch clean. I could tell him all that, but guess what? I found myself realizing he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand. I could have gone through a list of 20 things. This is why you don't paint the couch, but none of them was comprehensible by a toddler, the mind of a toddler. And so the only thing I knew to say at the end was just like, buddy, we don't paint the couch. That's it. That's the only thing he could comprehend. We don't do it. We don't paint it. And when I read Joshua 7, that's where I'm at. I don't get the severity of sin from the eyes of a holy Father. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I got a human mind. I live in the brokenness and the chaos. I can't comprehend how offensive my sin is to a holy God. And I kind of fall back on this to think that there's a heavenly Father that says, I know you don't get it. You're not going to comprehend it. Just know I sent Christ to die for it. So, don't do it. I mean, does that help us understand the depth of His holiness? And at the end of the day, we're just left with this, son, Daddy will just have to take care of it. And that's our Heavenly Father in so many ways that we wrestle with Joshua 7. Why the punishment seems so severe, and to what happened to this family, like how do we explain that? And the skeptics say this and that, and what kind of God is that? And that's our human minds wrestling with a God who is that holy, that at the end of the day not only said to us, don't do it, but who says to us, you're going to do it. And so I'm going to provide what is necessary. I'm going to pay the cost. I'm going to pay the sacrifice. I'm going to make the sacrifice. I'm going to do what is necessary to bring cleansing and wholeness and redemption and grace, because you can't understand the severity of sin to a holy God. So I'm just going to provide it. I'm just going to provide for you. And that's why we bring it into the light. That's why we do not live with the weight, because He has provided the freedom through the cross. And so we run to Him, just like I wanted my toddler to run to me at the end of this and for him to know, Daddy loves you. It's okay. Just don't do it, son. But Daddy will take care of everything. So we run to the light. We're all aching. And thankfully, there's a greater Joshua who has brought life and grace and hope and love in spite of our hidden sin. Let's bow our heads for prayer.